Good morning. We have the great pleasure today to have in our U40 talks Violeta Bulc, former Commissioner for Mobility and Transport during the Juncker presidency. Hi, Violeta. Thank you very much for being here.
Hey, hello. Thank you very much for this invitation. It's exciting and it's great to be able to talk to younger generations. And I'm really gaps that are so often placed everywhere.
Yes, there might be a bit of interruption. So as we were saying, thanks a lot for being here. And of course, as you just mentioned, bridging the gap between experiences and young forces for the future, I think that is really a great occasion and a great chance that we can't miss.
Yes, indeed. Very good. Really big compliments from my side. And I'm actually quite eager to hear the questions as well, because I love to learn from younger generations myself. So this is the point. That's the excitement, is that we really bridge our different point of view and experiences.
Absolutely. So let's start and dive in. Well, first of all, I hope you and your family are well during this Corona crisis. How are you coping with this, and how do you see, let's say, this shaping the EU and the world, especially under the transport perspective, which has been one of the most affected areas?
Yes, indeed. First of all, thank you very much. Yes, myself and my family, so far we're doing well, and I hope the same applies to you and your colleagues. But we, of course, cannot overlook the challenge that the virus put in front of us. And I'm going to take it from a positive perspective. In spite of the fact that I know many people suffer, and there's been tremendous number of tragedies, and I would like to really express my deep sympathy to those that had to suffer for everyone else, in order for us to organize better and to start responding correctly. But we really have to take a serious deep look into what the messages are, and I'm trying to do my best to act upon them. Been quite active in different circles here and globally, discussing this issue. And as you mentioned, transport's been severely affected by it, and me being out just a couple of months, I cannot ignore, and I feel very close with all transport stakeholders and the fights that they're fighting now and trying to come back and deliver service people need in order to cope with the virus crisis, but at the same time to get back fully be activated again in a day-to-day routines. But first of all, let me just say that the virus too often is presented only from one side. And I would like to invite everyone, especially the young people, to take a look at least three possible ways how we can address the virus challenge. And when I say that, I'm also inviting everyone to understand that we need to learn how to live with viruses, not just how to beat the viruses. So I see three ways. One is to boost our immune system, and we are not discussing enough this on the EU level. So we can already see that the countries that allowed people to go out, to spend time in the forest, in the gardens, of course by themselves or just in circles of their families, but still that they were out there, the results in those countries are better. I'm really happy that that applies to Slovenia as well. So finding the way to strengthen a human immune system is our long-term goal, number one, and I would very much invite the young people to take it seriously. The second one is, of course, how to prevent the virus to enter our body. And that is really important for mobility sector, for many similar sectors that are very much engaging with people directly and bringing people together in a close context. So here I can see the technologies can help us a lot. The discipline can help us a lot. Just a simple prevention with a mask or disinfection of our hands can be a very effective step. So I hope that this will stay, and that will also help the mobility sector to come on board faster. And the third one is a key issue, because we already know that is mutating. So we will have to give a huge support to those that innovate in the field as well, to try to address this virus from a different perspective that they've been addressing viruses so far, and to take into account this constantly dynamic mutation of the virus. This is something we are yet to learn really how to master. So in the framework of these three dimensions, I think the long-term solutions will be the combination of both, of all three of them. And of course, transport needs to also consider all three of them seriously and see how can ensure solutions that will no longer interrupt transport in the future, where similar situations to learn what are the long-lasting results, but with the different ultraviolet lights that are used also in hospitals. We've seen it being used in public transport for disinfection. So technology will play an important role here. And of course, the special types of vaccine in the long run. What I see in transport today, I see people are afraid. Yeah, and when you're afraid, you're reluctant to be proactive. So that will be one of the key jobs for all transport providers, to raise again this level of trust. But we've seen before with terrorism acts, and we worked hard and brought this trust back. So I'm sure that in a couple of months we will get people back on public transport, well, and especially make sure that all logistic networks run smoothly.
Yes, I actually agree with you. The three dimensions are very, very important. And as a young European, I consider myself a native European because I'm 30 years old. So for me, the European Union has always been very prominent, even more than my own personal citizenship. I've always took as a given, let's say, the ability to move freely among different European countries. And so this crisis has been affecting transport not only for movement of goods, but also for the movement of people. And in the end, we are here at the European level to serve the citizens. And so this is our first priority, I would say. On this, then I would like on this note, I would like to ask you, because you have had the chance to serve the European Union in one of the most interesting positions that all politics geeks would love to have, let's say. So I would like to ask you, how was for you to become commissioner? And during the various years, you have probably faced several crises. So how did you deal with it? How was your experience?
Well, my entry to political into the political world of the EU was like vortex. I was part of a completely new party set up here in Slovenia. We set up a party 5 weeks before the elections. We got 36 votes, which was the largest number ever any party got. So we had to put the government together. I was a businesswoman, innovator, entrepreneur, and I loved my world. But then I had to take responsibility for what we started on the political scene here. So I decided to join the government, became a minister, and after 5 weeks, actually after 3 weeks being a minister, I became deputy prime minister. And then our government was the one to propose the European Commissioner. And I was the only one really who qualified, because President Juncker was very clear. It has to be a woman. It has to be a former prime minister or deputy prime minister. And there was not too much choices that we had in the coalition. So here I was, after just a couple of weeks being in domestic politics, I ended up in Brussels. And but I felt from the first day on, I felt very much welcome. I felt that I'm at the right place. And I was actually really happy to get transport as a portfolio. My background was, I'm an engineer by profession. I worked for several years in Silicon Valley, where as a computer engineer and architect, and then worked in telecommunications for many years. So all this logic of networks was very familiar to me, the system thinking. And I realized soon that I have a role to play, because there was very little of digitalization present in European transport on system level. I also soon realized that there is a lack of green awareness, which I lived sort of Green Deal already 20 years ago. So this was my chance, and that's where I then put a lot of emphasis. I also realized that women are not really well present, and that there are a few things that we could do also as politicians to give a support to the sector to
Absolutely.
be more gender balanced. And of course, nobody considers seriously transport for innovative financial tools, that's so-called Juncker's plan. But I saw a huge opportunity, so and rightly so, with the team, which was excellent. We placed transport among the top portfolios then, who were able to absorb also new ways of financing. Of course, through that, pushed for innovation. And these were all my areas where I used to engage before as an entrepreneur. So it was a really good match, and I cannot really compliment enough the knowledge that exists within the Commission. So I had really excellent professional support from my colleagues. So once we set clearly the political agendas, it was great then to develop and deliver together with all stakeholders the new story, the Transport Union, as we called it. And it continues to be the exciting field. It's part of two major components of the new Commission, Green Deal and Digital Europe. Transport in the future will be mostly about that. So there is much more coming, much more exciting areas will be developed in transport in the next 10, 20, 30 years, especially, of course, the green component and the autonomous mobility.
Yes, and especially, especially because we are dealing with situations that cannot be changed overnight. It's something that requires a plan that looks really for the future, the next 10, 15, 20 years, 30 years. So on this side, do you see a continuity of your work in the current Commission? And, do you have any suggestion for the new politicians in the European Parliament or the new commissioner on how to do things best, lessons learned from your experience, let's say?
Well, I don't dare to give any recommendations to the Commission, but I will share with you a couple of points that I hope you can find it useful. First thing is that I was nicely surprised because the Commission's framework and mindset is the continuation. So I picked up a couple of very important files from the previous Commissioner for Transport, continued them, and they're still going on, like TEN-T network, investments in TEN-T, and similar. And I can see that, of course, green agenda and digitalization of European transport continues to stay the key priority. Also, road safety, you cannot avoid but focus on road safety, because it is really unacceptable that 25,000 Europeans lose their lives on European roads. And maybe we became now even more sensitive through the figures of coronavirus. Suddenly, these statistics of fatalities are touching us even deeper, because it was such a near-by experience for many. Yes, these stay priorities, but above all, we see that new technology, especially autonomous mobility, drones, then urban aviation space, these are new emerging markets that will continue to grow and will continue to not only breach my and the new Commission, but even many commissioners beyond. what I would invite you all, especially the young politicians, please do never lose touch with your voters. Make sure that you're constantly into the real needs, not wishes, but real needs of European citizens. I know that this was one of the hard lessons we learned under the previous commission, because citizens were very clear in sending us a message that we lost touch with them. So Juncker's team, we got a special assignment to really do as many citizens dialogues as we could, and I've done more than 60 during my period, really trying to, every time I went to a member state, trying to have also the citizens dialogue and trying to bring the content closer to citizens, but also hear what are really the challenges, what are the misunderstandings that are emerging on the local level. Why is this so important? Because misunderstandings create then negative emotions. And if you're there, if you can clarify directly, people feel relieved and they at a challenge from a completely different perspective. For example, I can tell you one very common misunderstanding that still exists on a local level, which is that a lot of European citizens don't understand that EU is not a state. It's not really a state. It's a peace project where member states decide together what are the projects that we deliver on the EU level. We have a special contract that defines that, the treaty. So this is something so obvious to everyone who is in the Brussels bubble, but it's not that obvious to citizens out there. So they expect many times things from the EU that they cannot get. For example, in this Corona crisis, everywhere there was huge criticism over EU not acting. We can debate, could this commission respond faster? I'm not going to even get there. But we have to also understand that no member state was interested in bringing health as a common subject on the EU level before. We've seen that on the previous commission with challenges like migration or terrorism, until we got really heavily hit. And then all of a sudden we realized, oops, we do need some joint tools and works to act together on the EU level as well. And I'm sure that something like that will follow now for the health sector as well. For example, if nothing else, that we can connect the records of patients, which is still not interconnected, like records of terrorists were not the past. And after that very painful and very dramatic period, now EU is connected. We are cooperating in with intelligent informations. So I hope that the same will follow with the health issue. So explain people what EU is really all about, and make sure that we all understand that the peace project is about everything. Because if we don't have a peace project, every single member state will be seriously challenged and manipulated by interest forces that will not always come from the EU. So we just need to bring this topic over and over again. It's like freedom. The key elements of our freedom, they're taken for granted, but we need to discuss them, because it's so easy to challenge them and get rid of them or dismiss them. But then when we realize we don't have them anymore, it takes a long time before we build back the conditions. And
I could have not said it better. I fully agree with you. I could have not said it better. We take as granted so many things, sometimes, especially as young people, that we didn't have to fight to get those things. And now when we actually lose them, we realize, okay, we took something for granted. We should have discussed it way better before. So
when may I ask you something? When you go back back to your voters base, especially the young MEPs, how do you connect with them? Do you feel their confusion? Do you, or how do you get the real responses from them?
Well, that is the point for many young MEPs. I mean, they try to be as connected as possible in a hyper-connected world when connection means everything and nothing at the same time. Because we're all on social media, but then actually when it comes to really discussing concretely about things, it's very hard to maintain that link, especially when you are at a European level. And then getting back to their constituencies, etc. So I will definitely rely that question to the young MEPs, and I will get back to you with an answer hopefully soon.
Super. Let me invite you to pay attention to one European project that I came across last year, and I really liked it. It's so-called street democracy. And it connected mid-sized cities all over Europe where the young people were practicing street democracy. And these kind of initiatives, they need to be discussed. I'm not saying that they have the best possible answer and framework, but I would invite young MEPs to engage with them and discuss their experiences and see what you can learn out of it. I mean, for me, it was a really powerful experience when I met them and spent the day with them.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for the comment. I have another question, as our time is running fast because it's interesting. On the more fun side, I would like to ask you what was your most memorable day as commissioner, and a funny anecdote. We always ask this kind of question.
I was thinking about that, and I will share one that I keep sharing with my friends as well, and even I shared it with my family right after it happened. And it actually tells you how important it is that when you enter into a new ecosystem, you need to learn language, you need to learn expressions, just to feel at home and to feel confident. So my first official visit, right after I was appointed, was to Paris, to the Parliament. The French Parliament, and we arrived. We had first some subgroup meetings before I met with the President of the Parliament, and the lady came to me and she said, "Madam, do you need to wash your hands?" And I looked at my hands and I said, "No, not really," and I didn't, pay too much attention. And then after I was done with the first meeting, the lady approached me again and said, "Before we continue, would you like to wash your hands?" And I looked at my hands again and I said, "Well, what is she talking about? I mean, my hands are perfectly fine." Of course, just to later on learn that in the diplomatic language, that means, do you need to go to the toilet? Because they wanted to make sure you don't need that while you're in the meeting. So that is something that it will stick with me for the rest of my life. But it's so obvious for those that have been in those circles, but it is so alien for somebody who comes in as new one. And I bet there is lots of others, little ones, but this one really is for my diary to
that is really a funny one to put in a biography in the future. That is a fun one. Super. And then as a last question to end on a positive note, I would be interested to know what is the natural life of a commissioner that after a few months, after a period, is not commissioner anymore. What are your projects? What are you doing? I know you are very active in some areas, so tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah. Well, I have to tell you that a minute after midnight, when your mandate is over, that's a real shock. You're everything a minute before and you're almost nothing a minute after. And nobody really prepares you for that. Luckily, my old colleagues told me about it. So I already had my schedule really well planned. And one of the first things, of course, I went home for Christmas and New Year, but then I packed and went to Brazil for a month just to completely shift the energy, because commission gets into your DNA. It gets into your bones, and all your natural reactions are reactions of a commissioner. So for 5 years, commissioner this, commissioner that, commissioner there, 12 hours per day, somebody plans for you.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you try to do the best you can, but you don't worry about the operation side. Yeah, you have a cabinet, you have a whole crew. I mean, altogether, it's a huge team in transport that you can engage with. So, but that Brazil really saved me, if I can say so, because I was completely off. I hardly checked my emails or phones. And when I came back, I kind of few ideas started to crystallize, and I was lucky that just couple of days before this crisis happened, I actually moved also back to Ljubljana. So I ended up here, really having a peaceful period to think all the ideas that I had in my mind through in a quiet and a very sort of stimulating environment. So where I'm a curious person. If there is nothing, there is not an area that invites me, I create a new one where I can then get engaged. So there are 3 areas where I work currently. Where I share my energy. First is that I helped Jean-Claude to really push for road safety as a human rights on a UN level. And also we started to sort of tap into the challenge of road safety culture, because it doesn't exist. It exists in all modes, but not on road safety. And that really helps me to continue with some of the passions that I discovered during my mandate. The second one is I try to help locally with the knowledge I have, especially in establishment of sustainable strategies that include Green Deal and digital agenda, and really this global perspective, bring more awareness of what EU is all about at local level, and try to also explain a bit more complex systems like investment structures that exist in order for local businesses, communities to tap better into opportunities. Most of the things I do for free. I volunteer a lot, but that's part of the deal anyway. But the passionate part is something that I've worked way back, probably from the 2012 on, is that I felt a call for this recognition of the emergence of new civilization, a concept of eco-civilization, which now takes most of my time. And I'm really dedicated to it. Yesterday we just launched it officially globally, the discussions and webinars and everything. And it's all on volunteering basis, but it's so exciting because I see that all over the world people are asking for some sort of bigger chapeau framework under which they could act based on what they feel and how they feel, how they relate to this time and space where we are at right now. And I can see that for the next 30 years, I will have a lot of work in that area.
That is actually also promising, let's say, and keeps people active. So in this sense, please come back to us whenever you want, and we will be sure to support you in this endeavor.
Super. Thank you very much, really, Alessandro. It was
Violeta, it was great to talk to you. Thank you very much. Let's do it again whenever you want. And with this, I wish you all the best for the future, and stay safe during this time.
Thank you very much. All the best to you, to your colleagues, and stay a strong force with a long-term vision of this beautiful project called European Union. I hope we will never be challenged to lose it, to understand what an important project that is. It's really worth fighting for, but not fighting with fists, but with dialogues, with discussions, and we're constantly searching for a common grounds that can help this entire continent to flourish in a sustainable manner. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
And thank you again, Violeta. Have a lovely day. Bye-bye.
Yes, you too. Bye-bye now.